Hi everyone. Is everyone ready for a little science today? Because we're going to learn more about pollination, because we've been learning about bees, and we have to learn a little bit more about why bees are so important in our world and how they pollinate plants, them and a lot of other pollinators. So the only thing you're going to need today are some crayons and a piece of paper, because we're going to make a little drawing of a flower and its parts. So a couple things I want to show you before we get started. When I was on my walk last weekend, or last week during Earth Day, I picked these pussy willows. Now I don't know if you guys know what pussy willows are, but it's from a willow plant, and they have these beautiful catkins, and they're gray and fuzzy, and then once they start to turn into flowers more, they look like this. So all of that yellow that you're seeing on the outside is the pollen of the flower. These are one of my favorite plants. In Alaska, they grew everywhere. There were like 40 species of willows there. Okay, so when you're out walking or hiking up in the mountains, keep your eye out for these guys, especially in the springtime. Okay, so let's take a look at our catkin, which is really our flower of our willow. Okay, I'm going to show you how much pollen there is. I have this black, and I'm going to shake this. And do you see all those tiny little grains of pollen? Can you see that? That fell off there? That is what's going to stick to our bee and get transferred from flower to flower to flower in order to produce a seed or the fruit of the plant. Okay? So let's go ahead and draw the different parts of our flower. Okay? So I'm going to choose a purplish, reddish color for our petals. And I'm going to show you this once I have it drawn out. Okay? So our petals of our flower are usually really bright. And I know you guys know why that is. To attract the pollinators, right? So I'm going to color these in a little bit. Sometimes petals have different patterns on them, and that makes them even more attractive to that bee or that ant or that hummingbird or that bat that is going to come and pollinate them, right? Because we have a lot of different types of pollinators. We've been talking a lot about bees lately, but they're only one of our pollinators. Okay, so I'm making mine nice and bright. And again, these are our what? Petals. You got it. Petals. Okay. I'm going to show you this in just a sec here. Okay, there's our petals of our flower. Okay, then I'm going to draw in another color here something that's called the stigma. And some flowers show this a little better than others, but I know you guys have seen this when we've been doing flower arranging at school. This is the stigma. It's that thing that sticks up sometimes in the center of flowers. And that, I'm going to write here stigma, that is the female part of our plant. Okay? And then we have oftentimes these little hair-like, they're like stemmy looking little things that come around the stigma. And then on them is a little seed-like thing that holds all the pollen. Okay, so these little these parts here that hold the anther are called the stamen. Stamen, anther. And the anther is where all the pollen comes from. So I'm going to label that stigma we have up here. That's our female part. Stamen. These are our terms for today. And anther. Okay? And then we have our petals. So those are our 4 main parts. There's lots of different parts. Petals, stigma, that's the female part, and the stamens and the anther. The anther is what holds the pollen, okay? So if you look here on my sunflower, these little guys right out here that are getting yellow and fluffy, those are all the stamens, and the anther are the yellow parts on the outside. The stamens are the little tiny stems that hold the anther, and then those hold the pollen. So I wonder if we can see a bunch of the petals are coming off. I think my better example of all those stamens and anthers were on my willow. When you watch it, look at all that pollen there. Okay, so let's do another example of how this all works. So I got 3 different colors of Kool-Aid. Now you don't have to do this at home. I know some of you don't have Kool-Aid at home, but I'm going to show you how this works, because what happens is, here's your bee. Zzz, and he's going to come, and he's going to land on your flower. It's going to be attracted to that bright color, and when it lands on that flower, it's going to have lots of that pollen stick to its legs. Have you seen those pollen sacs on honeybees? So you can see, zzz, see that, all that pollen? In this case, it's Kool-Aid. Okay, so then your bee is going to go from this flower, zzz, and he's going to come over here. He's going to land on our sunflower. So this was a sunflower too. We'll call that a sunflower. He's going to land on the sunflower as he picks up all that pollen and deposits more pollen on this next flower. Okay? And then he might come back and land on another flower, pick up more pollen, and then he's going to come and land probably on the center of this flower where that stigma is. That's the female part. So all these little pollen grains come from the male part, and then when it lands here and it fertilizes that female part with all that pollen, that's how we get seed and fruit, and we make this plant really reproduce itself and continue its life cycle. Okay, so I'd love to see your pictures of our flowers and our flower parts. Petals, stigma, the female part in the center, stamens, and then the anther that holds the pollen. So those are our science words for today. I'd love to see your drawings, and hopefully we'll be seeing more and more flowers outside as this beautiful weather continues. All right, thanks for joining me, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.